We open on an establishing shot of Kuala Lumpur. At the center of the skyline, rising above everything else, stands the Merdeka 118, the operational headquarters of radically advanced ideas in destruction. We enter the building where an intense action sequence takes place. The first raid operatives appear on the 65th floor. They are posted at stairwells and elevator banks, armed with automatic weapons and body armor, and they are not expecting a two-person assault team to have penetrated this deep without triggering an alarm. The surprise buys Hawkeye and Black Widow approximately 4 seconds of advantage. In those 4 seconds, Clint puts an arrow through the communication relay on the wall, severing the floor's connection to the command post above, and Natasha drops the nearest sentry with a strike to the throat that collapses his airway before he can shout. The fight that follows is fast, fluid, and brutal. The corridors of a skyscraper are not designed for combat, and the confined space amplifies every advantage and every mistake. Clint's arrows find gaps in body armor at distances measured in meters. Natasha moves through raid operatives like a current through water, redirecting their force against them, using their own weight and momentum as weapons. They clear floors in pairs, enter, neutralize, move up. The rhythm becomes a language between them, a cadence of violence that they execute with the seamless coordination of two musicians playing the same song. Clint takes the long angles, positioning himself at the far end of corridors where his bow's range is maximized, and Natasha takes the close work, engaging anyone who gets past his arrows. They cover each other's blind spots without needing to be told. They adapt to each new floor's layout within seconds. The partnership that began in hostility and evolved through grudging respect has become, in the crucible of shared combat, something that looks and functions like trust. The next scene opens not with spectacle, but with smallness. A flashback of flat Iowa farmland in high summer, the corn tall and green, the sky enormous and pale with heat. The camera drifts down to a cracked asphalt road where two boys on battered bicycles pedal with the urgent, purposeful energy of children on a mission. They are Clint and Barney Barton. They arrive at a concrete storm drain at the edge of a cornfield, a damp, shaded culvert where water trickles even in the driest weeks. Clint dismounts and crouches with practiced ease, peering into the shadows. Frogs. They have been here before. Barney keeps watch, glancing back down the road with the habitual vigilance of a child who knows the cost of being late. Clint moves carefully, hands cupped, and captures a small green frog. He places it in a plastic box with holes punched in the lid, and his face, guarded and serious a moment ago, breaks into a grin of pure, uncomplicated joy. They ride back to the Foster home, a sagging two-story house with a yard that has been neglected into something between lawn and wilderness. There is a lawnmower parked by the garage. The grass was supposed to be cut before their foster father returned from wherever he goes during the day. The boys exchange a look. They are late. Clint's grin disappears. Barney tells Clint to stay outside. He will go in alone. He will say it was his fault. He will absorb whatever comes. Clint obeys because he always obeys when Barney uses that voice. He crouches beneath the porch where he keeps his frogs, a small colony in mismatched containers, and gently adds the new one. Through the thin walls of the house, he hears the shouting begin. Then the sounds change from shouting to impact. Barney is being beaten. This is not new. What is new is what happens next. The sounds shift again, and this time it is the foster father who cries out. A crash, a thud, silence. Then the front door slams open and Barney emerges at a run, clutching a blood-stained baseball bat. His lip is split and his eye is swelling shut, but his expression is not fear. It is something wilder and more dangerous. The look of a child who has discovered that he can fight back and is terrified by how good it felt. Their foster father staggers onto the porch, bleeding from a gash on his head, bellowing threats. The boys are already on their bikes, pedaling with the desperate speed of prey. The man lurches to his car. What follows is a brief, horrible chase. A grown man in an automobile pursuing two children on bicycles down a rural road. The boys cut across a field where the car cannot follow. They reach the Carson Traveling Carnival. It is the kind of carnival that survives on the margins, moving from small town to small town, serving people who cannot afford better entertainment and do not expect it. But to two boys fleeing a beating, it looks like a sanctuary. A dog trots out to greet them. Clint reaches down to pet it, and for a moment the terror of the chase recedes. Then their foster father's car skids to a halt on the dirt road. The man climbs out, blood still trickling down his face, and strides toward the boys with the purposeful rage of someone who has been humiliated and intends to reclaim his authority through violence. He grabs Barney first, then Clint, and begins to hit them. Jacques DuQuesne steps out of the shadows between two tents. His stage name is the Swordsman, and he earns it nightly with acts of blade work that blur the line between performance and lethality. He tells the foster father to stop. His tone is almost courteous. The man does not stop. DuQuesne adjusts. He dispenses with the flowery language and makes his meaning plain. Release the boys or suffer consequences. The man, emboldened by alcohol and wounded pride, swings at DuQuesne. What follows is quick, efficient, and punctuated by a boot to the backside that sends the foster father stumbling back to his car. He drives away, shouting threats about the law. Now that the violence is over, other carnival members emerge. Celeste Mercier is the first. She is DuQuesne's girlfriend, a French-born aerialist whose act involves breathtaking leaps from a suspended hoop to a tilted target. She kneels to check the boys' injuries with the business-like tenderness of someone who has seen plenty of bruises in her time. Then Maud Carson arrives, the owner of the carnival. She demands to know what the commotion is about. DuQuesne explains that he rescued the boys from a bully and proposes, with a showman's flourish, that they join the troupe. 3 roustabouts quit in Las Vegas. The carnival needs hands. The boys need a home. When Clint and Barney explain that their real parents died in a car crash, Carson's expression softens, but only slightly. They can stay, she says, but only if they pull their weight. Clint and Barney are very young, and Carson presumably does not expect that weight to be much, but the principle matters to her. Nothing is free. Everything is earned. As the carnival packs up to move to its next stop, the boys throw themselves into the work of loading tents and equipment onto trucks. Clint, dragging a coil of rope that weighs almost as much as he does, spots a knife on the ground. He picks it up and brings it to DuQuesne, who receives it with genuine gratitude. The blade is the first he ever owned, a gift from his father, and it is the only sentimental object Jacques DuQuesne permits himself. He studies the boy who found it and notes the sharpness of his eyes, the way Clint noticed the glint of metal in trampled grass from 20 feet away. He dubs the boy Hawkeye. It is a name given in a moment of casual appreciation, but it will define a life. The film jumps forward in time to the present at the SHIELD training facility within the SHIELD helicarrier. Clint Barton is now an adult. He quietly suggests that his fiancée Bobbi Morse, known as Mockingbird, try using the bow, offering to teach her and commenting that it might suit her. Bobbi responds that she prefers fighting at close range and teases that archers keep their distance rather than commit fully. Clint replies that the remark stings because distance is how he expresses affection. Nick Fury's voice comes over the intercom. He tells them to stop flirting and start fighting, warning that otherwise he will reassign them both to filing duty. Fury activates the training protocol. The overhead lights dim. Holographic Hydra agents materialize across the space. Clint releases a series of arrows in rapid succession. One arrow splits another in mid-flight. Another ricochets off multiple surfaces before striking a target. The remaining arrows pin holographic opponents in place. Bobbi advances through the holograms. Her staves extend with metallic clicks. She deflects incoming dummy projectiles, strikes one hologram across the upper body, sweeps the legs of another, and vaults over a third to drive both staves into its torso. The hologram disperses into pixels. Clint and Bobbi shift into a back-to-back formation for several seconds as the remaining holograms close in. Clint fires an explosive arrow into the largest cluster. The detonation sends a shockwave across the mat. Bobbi uses the momentum to launch into a spinning aerial kick that disperses the final hologram. The holograms vanish. The lights return to full brightness. The training area falls silent. Fury remains on the platform without moving. He states that their performance reached 78% efficiency. He notes that the left flank was sloppy, that Bobbi telegraphs her spin kick, and that Clint still compensates for an eye he no longer lacks. After a brief pause, he adds that the two of them move as though they have been fighting together for years. He says that if they maintain that level, he might allow them into the field without supervision. Clint tells Fury they will take the maybe as a yes. Bobbi adds that the next session should involve real stakes instead of holograms. Fury turns and exits through the upper door. Clint extends a hand. Bobbi takes it and rises to her feet. Bobbi quietly remarks that Fury was correct and that the two of them work well together. Clint agrees and tells her not to let the compliment go to her head. Fury contacts Wolfgang von Strucker, the secretary of the World Security Council, and calls in a favor. Strucker has damaging information in Clint's file, details about his carnival years and association with known criminals, and Fury wants it erased. Strucker agrees, but the exchange is not friendly. He believes S.H.I.E.L.D. should operate with strict, cruel efficiency, unencumbered by Fury's sentimental attachment to heroism. He finds the concept of moral courage childish, a luxury that intelligence agencies cannot afford. Their conversation is a chess game conducted through pleasantries. Two men who need each other, but whose visions for the same organization are fundamentally incompatible. Strucker accedes to Fury's request. Elsewhere in the world, somewhere in Europe, the market breathes around Natasha Romanoff as she remains connected to the encrypted group call. At the top is the employer. He begins by addressing her directly, outlining that she has been selected for a raid operation of significant scale and importance. He explains that significant resources, personnel, and planning have already been committed, and that failure is not an acceptable outcome. He frames the mission as one that will have consequences beyond a standard contract, suggesting that its success will shift power in ways that justify the secrecy. William Cross, also known as Crossfire, joins the conversation and immediately redirects the tone into something more personal and invasive. He begins recounting Natasha's history in detail, referencing the Red Room and the Black Widow program as systems that created her. He speaks about her training, her indoctrination, and the transformation from a person into a weapon. He then lists specific operations she has carried out, identifying locations and outcomes with clinical precision. He brings up Sao Paulo and describes the hospital fire not as tragedy, but as efficiency, framing the event as evidence of her effectiveness in high-risk scenarios. Natasha answers him by neither confirming nor denying any of it, instead allowing his words to exist without validation. Cross continues, explaining that her reputation is the reason she was chosen, but also the reason she is being closely evaluated. He makes it clear that someone with her background does not simply work for RAID without scrutiny. He implies that unpredictability is a liability, and that her past demonstrates both her value and her potential to deviate. Natasha responds by reaffirming that she completes the mission she accepts. The employer then turns his attention to Barney Barton, who goes by the name Trickshot, and instructs him on his specific responsibilities for the next phase of the operation. Cross interjects and tells Barney that he expects full coordination between them in the field. Barney responds that his loyalty is to the operation and that he will do what is required. The employer interjects, steering the conversation back to Natasha. He states that he has no interest in employing someone who cannot operate without emotional interference, making it clear that whatever he has heard or suspects about her is already influencing his expectations. Natasha answers by stating that she understands the terms of the arrangement. She recognizes that they're not just hiring her, but testing whether she is still the weapon they believe her to be. Cross reinforces this point by returning to her past actions, explaining that the Black Widow identity is built on certainty, not doubt. He suggests that everything she has done proves that she is capable of acting without hesitation, and that any change from that pattern would indicate a flaw. He frames her history as a standard she is expected to meet, not something she can move beyond. Natasha counters by stating that results are what matter, not perception. She implies that as long as the mission is completed, the method should be irrelevant. The employer closes the discussion by confirming that the operation will proceed as planned and that further details will be provided when necessary. He reiterates that she has been chosen because of what she is, and that he expects her to remain exactly that. He makes it clear that failure or deviation will have consequences, though he does not specify what those consequences are. His final intention is to leave no ambiguity about the stakes. Natasha gives a final confirmation, signaling her acceptance of the mission. The call ends with the understanding that all parties have what they need for now. Meanwhile, Fury summons Hawkeye and Mockingbird for their first major assignment as a partnered SHIELD team, and the gravity of the mission is evident from Fury's demeanor. Wakanda, the reclusive African nation that possesses the world's only natural supply of vibranium, has recently begun to open its borders to limited international trade. A shipment of the extraordinarily rare and powerful metal is being transported by armored train through the Russian Far East, a route chosen for its remoteness and the cooperation of Russian security services. Intelligence indicates that Raid intends to hijack the shipment, and that the operation will be led on the ground by the Black Widow. Clint and Bobbi are presented with Natasha Romanoff's file. It is extensive and harrowing. Abducted as a young girl and enrolled in the Red Room, a covert Soviet program that trained female operatives through a combination of physical conditioning, psychological manipulation, and systematic destruction of personal identity. Graduated as the program's most lethal product, deployed as an assassin while still a teenager, linked to dozens of operations across 4 continents, each one characterized by efficiency, brutality, and 0 survivors. The file reads like a horror story told in the language of intelligence reports. Most agents absorb this information with professional detachment, filing it under threat assessment, and moving on. A few react with righteous anger, viewing the Black Widow as a monster who must be stopped. Clint's reaction is different. He reads the file and feels pity. Not the condescending pity of someone who considers himself superior, but the empathetic recognition of someone who understands what it means to be shaped by forces beyond your control. Clint says quietly that Natasha Romanoff has been used her entire life, and that perhaps what she needs is not a bullet, but an alternative. Fury hears this and is impressed. It is exactly the kind of moral instinct he has been cultivating in his agents. Clint and Bobbi accept the mission. They arrive at the Russian Far East from Clint's Sky Cycle and board the armored train, and make their way to the vibranium shipment that sits in a reinforced car at the center of the train. As Hawkeye and Mockingbird move their way up, they talk about small things. A restaurant in DC they want to try, a terrible movie they watched on Bobbi's laptop during a layover, whether Clint's habit of leaving arrows on every flat surface in their apartment constitutes a safety hazard. The ordinariness of these conversations is deliberate. Then he thinks about Natasha Romanoff's file, about a girl taken from her family and rebuilt as a weapon. Bobbi notices his silence and asks what is wrong. Clint deflects with humor, but Bobbi knows him too well to accept the deflection. He admits that something about this mission feels personal in a way he cannot articulate. Bobbi tells him to trust his instincts. It is one of the things she loves about him. He feels things that other agents have trained themselves not to feel, and he is usually right. Miles from the train, moving through the frozen landscape with disciplined efficiency, Natasha leads the raid strike team toward their target. The team travels in armored vehicles modified for extreme cold. Their approach timed to intercept the train at a point where the terrain narrows and the tracks curve, reducing the train's speed and limiting its ability to maneuver. A large military helicopter follows at a distance, staying below radar, ready to provide aerial support and extraction. Natasha is focused but visibly uncomfortable with her company. The strike team is composed of professionals, but professionals of the ugliest kind. Crossfire rides beside her. He checks and rechecks his sniper rifle with the loving attention most people reserve for living things. Natasha reviews the operation plan one final time. The helicopter will make the initial approach, deploying operatives onto the train from above. The strike team will neutralize the guards, secure the vibranium, and extract via the helicopter. The plan is clean and professional. What gnaws at Natasha is not the plan's mechanics, but its purpose. She knows the Vibranium is not being stolen for resale. Her employer has plans for it, plans she has not been fully briefed on, and the gaps in her knowledge feel deliberate. She is being used, as she has always been used, as a tool pointed at a target without being told why the target matters. The difference between now and every other time is that the feeling of being used has begun to make her sick. The attack begins with a helicopter. It rises from behind a ridgeline like a mechanical predator, its rotors beating the frozen air into a vortex of snow and noise. The train's guards spot it too late. Ropes drop from the helicopter's bay, and raid operatives descend onto the train's roof, their boots hitting metal in a rapid sequence of thuds that Clint hears from inside the car below. Bobbi is beside him, her battle staves already in her hands. The battle erupts across multiple cars simultaneously. Raid operatives breach the train from the roof, smashing through access hatches and skylights, dropping into corridors where the security detail scrambles to respond. The fight is chaotic in close quarters, the narrow corridors of the train turning every engagement into a brutal, confined struggle where range is measured in feet and the margin for error is zero. Clint and Bobbi move together initially, clearing cars with coordinated efficiency, Clint's arrows finding targets at distances that should be impossible in a rocking, swaying corridor, while Bobbi stays crack against raid operatives with percussive authority. But the train is long and the attackers are numerous, and the pair is forced to split up to cover more ground. Bobbi pushes forward toward the Vibranium car, where the heaviest fighting is concentrated. Clint moves toward the rear of the train, where he has spotted movement on the roof. He climbs through an access hatch and emerges into the howling wind of the train's exterior. Natasha is waiting for him on the roof of the next car. Or rather, she is not waiting. She is moving toward the Vibranium car with the focused purpose of someone executing a plan, and Clint is in her path. Their first encounter is sudden and violent. She is faster than Clint expected. She is faster than almost anyone he has ever fought. The train sways beneath them, adding an element of chaos to every exchange, and the wind tears at their clothing and numbs their exposed skin. Clint fights with the improvised creativity that S.H.I.E.L.D. values. He uses his bow as a melee weapon. When range closes, plants arrows in the train's surface to create obstacles, and exploits the environment with an intuition that comes from years of fighting in unconventional spaces. But Natasha is better at close range. She has been trained for exactly this. Confined spaces, moving platforms, opponents who are skilled but not skilled enough. She drives him back along the rooftop, forcing him to give ground, car by car. And yet, there are moments, brief and almost imperceptible, where Natasha has a clear path to a lethal strike and does not take it. A knee to the throat that becomes a knee to the shoulder. An elbow that angles away from the temple at the last instant. A hold that releases a fraction of a second before the joint would break. While Clint battles Natasha on the roof, Mockingbird fights her way toward the Vibranium car and encounters Crossfire. When Bobbi blocks his path, he draws his sidearm and fires. His bionic eye tracks Bobbi's movements with inhuman accuracy, allowing him to anticipate strikes before they land and to exploit openings that a normal eye would miss. Bobbi is outmatched. She lands hits, she draws blood, she forces him to respect her capability. But Crossfire is not fighting alone. Trickshot arrives through a shattered window, and the 2-against-1 arithmetic overwhelms even Bobbi's formidable defenses. Trickshot does not engage her with the sadistic enthusiasm that Cross displays. He fights efficiently and without apparent pleasure, doing what the mission requires and nothing more. Together, they drive Bobbi back to the Vibranium car and begin the extraction. On the roof of the train, Clint's fight with Natasha is interrupted by the arrival of Trickshot, who has completed his work inside and emerged to provide support. Natasha withdraws, leaving Clint to face the other archer alone. What follows is one of the film's signature sequences. 2 master archers in a standoff on top of a speeding train, bows drawn, arrows aimed at each other's hearts. The frozen Russian landscape screaming past them on either side. They hold the position, Neither fires. Trickshot says hello to his brother and remarks that it has been a long time since they last saw each other. Clint's realization comes not as a thunderbolt, but as a sickening wave of recognition. The film cuts abruptly from the train to the past at the Carson Traveling Carnival. The film compresses weeks and months into a sequence that captures the rhythms of carnival life. Clint and Barney shovel elephant dung, haul tent poles, coil ropes, mop the funhouse floor, and collapse at the end of each day into sleeping bags in the back of a truck. The work is hard and unglamorous, and Carson does not soften it for them. But between the tasks, there are moments of wonder. The boys sneak into the big tent during performances and watch, wide-eyed, from behind the bleachers. DuQuesne and Celeste's act is the centerpiece. Celeste performs on a suspended hoop high above the ring, executing flips and holds that make the audience gasp. Then she leaps, landing on a tilted wooden target on the ground, and DuQuesne takes over. From across the ring, he throws knives and fires arrows that frame her body in a constellation of blades, each one landing inches from her skin. Then she retaliates, hurling round fruit at him from the target, and DuQuesne slices each one in midair with his sword. The act is dangerous, beautiful, and deeply intimate. Clint watches it with the rapt attention of a boy who has found a new religion. The carnival dog becomes the boy's constant companion. It sleeps between them at night, follows them during the day, and provides the uncomplicated affection that no adult in their lives has managed to sustain. Clint talks to the dog. He tells it about his parents, about the foster home, about the frogs he had to leave behind. These are the only times in the film where young Clint is fully unguarded. DuQuesne catches the boys goofing off when they should be working. He pretends to be furious, his theatrical instincts making the performance convincing enough to frighten Barney, who immediately tries to take all the blame. But DuQuesne's anger dissolves into something else. He tosses his special knife to Clint and says that if they want to break the rules, they're going to play a little game. He takes the boy into the woods behind the carnival's current campsite and begins teaching him to throw knives. The knife throwing does not go well. Clint's hands are too small and his wrist too weak for the rotational mechanics of a throw. But DuQuesne has also brought a bow, a simple recurve scaled down for a child. And when he places it in Clint's hands, something happens. The boy draws the string back with a smoothness that surprises them both. His first arrow misses the paper target. His second clips the edge. His third strikes the outer ring. DuQuesne watches with the expression of a man who has just discovered something valuable. Clint is a natural. Over the following weeks, DuQuesne trains Clint in the woods whenever the boy can escape his duties. Clint progresses with startling speed, moving from paper targets to smaller and more distant marks. DuQuesne pushes him, corrects his form, teaches him to account for wind and distance, and between lessons, talks to him. These conversations are the closest thing to fathering that either of them has experienced. DuQuesne confides that his own father was abusive, a man who used his fists to enforce silence and obedience. Clint tells him about his foster father, about the beatings Barney absorbed, about the day they ran. The bond between them is real, but precarious. DuQuesne tells Clint to keep the practice bow. The boy needs it more than he does. They return to the carnival with the dog trotting between them, and find Barney helping the roustabouts erect tents at the new site. Barney is grumpy. He has been working while Clint has been playing with bows in the woods. The inequality is obvious and it stings. DuQuesne takes Barney aside and tells him that he has other talents the carnival can use. Maud Carson has agreed that Barney is old enough to learn the other ways the show makes money. Barney learns to steal. DuQuesne and the carnival's other grifters teach him the art of the pickpocket. Distraction, misdirection, the featherlight touch that lifts a wallet without the mark ever feeling it. Barney's specialty is the dog. He works the crowds during shows, using the friendly mutt to engage women, crouching to pet it alongside them while his fingers find their purses. Celeste works a parallel operation, using her beauty and accent to charm men while relieving them of watches, cash, and jewelry. It is a coordinated system, practiced and profitable, and Barney takes to it with the same natural aptitude Clint showed with the bow. Clint discovers the thieving by accident. He is manning a sideshow booth, one of the carnival's few legitimate operations, when he sees Barney and the dog working a mark in the crowd. Then he spots Celeste doing the same. The realization hits him with the force of a physical blow. Later, Barney finds Clint in the main tent, shooting arrows obsessively at targets. He is not supposed to be there. Clint pretends that his childhood hearing issues prevent him from hearing his brother's approach, a trick he has used before, but eventually drops the act and confronts Barney. He knows about the stealing, and he is devastated to learn that it was DuQuesne, his hero, his surrogate father, who suggested it. Barney's response is not defensive. He explains that the thieving is how the carnival survives. Ticket sales and concessions are not enough. Without the grift, the show folds, and when the show folds, he and Clint go back to foster care. The choice is not between honesty and dishonesty. It is between this life and no life at all. Clint does not accept this logic, but he hears the fear beneath it. In his frustration, he fires an arrow at the target with every ounce of anger in his small body, and it strikes the bullseye. His first. One evening, Barney brings his daily take to Maud Carson's trailer, and Clint accompanies him. Carson counts the money with the practiced efficiency of a woman who has been doing this for decades, then turns her attention to Clint. He is not producing any income. He eats their food, sleeps in their trucks, and contributes nothing to the operation's bottom line. Barney argues that he earns enough for both of them. Clint claims he's almost good enough with the beau to be part of the show. Carson is unimpressed. She has a carnival to run, not a charity. Outside the trailer, the brothers argue. Barney, hurt and scared, suggests that Clint stop carrying his bow around because it makes him look foolish. The words land harder than any punch. They come across Celeste Mercier sitting alone on the steps of her trailer, drinking from a bottle. She has had a fight with DuQuesne. Her eyes are red, and the sophisticated veneer she maintains during performances has slipped to reveal someone exhausted and trapped. Clint, who harbors a boyhood crush on Celeste, instinctively moves to defend her, but she waves him off. It is just between her and DuQuesne, she says, the kind of fight that couples have. DuQuesne emerges from the trailer and sees Clint holding the bottle. His reaction is instructive. He does not yell. He says, calmly, that he is not Clint's father and will not tell him what to do. But he takes the bottle away. Barney hands over a hidden cut of his daily take, money that Carson does not know about, a private arrangement between the older boy and DuQuesne. Jacques pockets it and announces that he is taking Celeste and Barney on an outside job. He does not specify what the job is. Clint offers to come. DuQuesne tells him to stay and practice. Clint turns to Barney and pleads. He tells Clint to stay behind. That way, at least one of them will be safe. Then he climbs into the truck with DuQuesne and Celeste, and they drive into the night. DuQuesne drives to a nearby town and parks behind a closed jewelry store. Barney and Celeste approach the building on foot. There's a small window, too small for an adult, but not for a nimble boy. Barney wriggles through, drops to the floor inside, and unlocks the door for Celeste. The store is dark and still, display cases glinting in the ambient light from the street. Celeste moves with professional efficiency, scooping inventory into a canvas bag while Barney keeps watch at the window. DuQuesne, presumably, is managing the operation from outside, though the camera stays with Barney and Celeste. The robbery is quick, practiced, and successful. Meanwhile, back at the carnival, Clint and the dog are alone and restless. The boy wanders to DuQuesne's trailer, which is unlocked. He goes inside. The trailer is sparse but reveals small details about its occupant. Swords mounted on the wall, a shelf of books in French, a photograph of a younger Jacques DuQuesne with an older man whose face has been scratched out. Clint tries on DuQuesne's mask and picks up his sword, waving it around in a child's approximation of the swordsman's act. The dog sniffs at a trunk shoved under the bed and paws at it until Clint pulls it out and opens it. Inside he finds a gun, a camera with a telephoto lens, and a stack of candid photographs of Celeste Mercier. The photographs are not explicitly incriminating, but their existence is deeply unsettling. They are taken without her knowledge, from distances that suggest surveillance rather than affection. Clint is too young to fully articulate what he is seeing, but he is old enough to feel that something is very wrong. The truck returns. Barney and Celeste find Clint in the trailer. The trunk open, the photographs scattered. Clint bolts. He runs through the dark carnival grounds with the dog at his heels, and Barney catches up to him near the animal pens. Clint is crying, though he will not admit it. He says they should leave. They should go back to their foster father. Anything is better than this. Barney is incredulous. Go back to beatings and neglect? Go back to a man who chased him in his car? He tells Clint they're onto a good thing here, that DuQuesne takes care of them, that the carnival is the only home they have. Clint hits him. It is the first time Clint has ever struck his brother, and the shock of it silences them both. Celeste arrives and tries to mediate. Clint turns to her and asks about the photographs. Why does DuQuesne have secret pictures of her? Why does she stay with him? Celeste's expression shifts through several emotions: surprise, anger, resignation, and she tells Clint that he is too young to understand. It is both a deflection and the truth. Then Barney hits Clint, retaliating for the earlier blow, and the brothers are suddenly on the ground, fighting with the clumsy ferocity of children. DuQuesne appears and separates them. Clint, emboldened by adrenaline and grief, accuses him to his face. Thief, liar, worse. DuQuesne does not deny any of it. He agrees. He's all of those things. But he points out, with a logic that is devastating precisely because it is true, that unlike the boy's foster father, he has never raised a hand to them. He has fed them, sheltered them, and taught Clint a skill that could define his life. And he will show them how to survive in a world that does not care about them. The carnival packs up. Trucks are loaded, tents are folded, the Ferris wheel is dismantled and laid on its side in a flatbed. Barney and Celeste climb into a truck with DuQuesne. The engine starts. Through the window, Barney looks at his brother. Clint stands in the dirt with the dog beside him, the practiced bow over his shoulder, and refuses to move. The truck pulls away. The carnival follows, vehicle by vehicle, until Clint is standing alone in an empty field with nothing but trampled grass and tire tracks to prove that any of it was real. The film returns to the present. On the train, the battle has ended badly for S.H.I.E.L.D. Clint's momentary paralysis upon recognizing Barney costs him. Natasha, unaware of the drama unfolding between the brothers, re-engages and defeats Clint in their second exchange. She is more committed this time, the adrenaline of the operation overriding the hesitations that marked their first fight. She puts him down hard, pinning him to the roof of the train with a hold that could kill him with a single adjustment of pressure. She holds the position. Clint looks up at her, battered and breathing hard, and waits for the killing stroke. It does not come. Natasha holds him there, her face inches from his, and something passes between them that neither expected. She sees in his eyes not the cold calculation of a professional preparing to die, but something raw and human: grief. He has just seen his brother. She does not know this, but she recognizes grief when she sees it, because she has been carrying her own for as long as she can remember. The killing stroke does not come because she cannot bring herself to murder senselessly anymore. She releases Clint and steps back. Inside the train, the situation is worse. Crossfire and Trickshot have outmaneuvered Bobbi and secured the Vibranium. Bobbi, refusing to relinquish the cargo, fights until she is physically overpowered. She is not simply defeated, she is taken. Raid kidnaps Mockingbird along with the Vibranium. The helicopter descends, the Vibranium is loaded aboard, and Bobbi is dragged onto the aircraft alongside it. The helicopter lifts away into the gray Russian sky, leaving Clint on the roof of a train that is ground to a halt in the middle of nowhere, watching the woman he loves disappear. Natasha is left behind. Her own team has abandoned her, discarding her now that the payload is secure. Clint takes Natasha into custody. The term is generous. What actually happens is that two battered, exhausted people sit in a wrecked train car in the middle of the Russian taiga and have a conversation that changes both their lives. Natasha speaks first. She deduces that Clint's new to S.H.I.E.L.D., that he carries trauma from childhood, that he has a personal connection to someone on the raid team, and that his empathy is both his defining quality and the thing that will destroy him. She tells him that espionage is not a profession for people who are not prepared to lose everything. The statement is partly a warning and partly a test. She wants to see how he reacts to having his vulnerabilities cataloged by an enemy. Clint absorbs it. He does not deny any of it. He does not become defensive or hostile. He tells Natasha that he saw her hesitate. Not once but twice. On the roof, when she had him pinned, she chose not to kill. And earlier, in their first exchange, the strikes that could have been lethal were pulled to merely incapacitate. He tells her that the Red Room may have built the Black Widow, but it did not finish the job, because somewhere inside the weapon there is a person who does not want to kill anymore. No one has ever said this to Natasha. In her entire life, across decades of violence and manipulation, no one has ever looked at her and seen something other than a threat to be neutralized or a tool to be used. Clint's words do not redeem her. They do not erase the hospital fire in Sao Paulo or the dozens of operations that haunt her sleep. But they open a door that she did not know existed, a possibility that the person she was before the Red Room might still be alive, buried under all the training and the blood, waiting for someone to notice. She does not weep. She does not confess. She sits very still, and something in her face shifts, a tectonic movement so subtle that only someone watching very closely would see it. Clint is watching very closely. It is what he does. Clint looks at the woman sitting across from him, a woman who has killed more people than he can count, who manipulated him within minutes of being captured, who represents everything a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent is trained to destroy. And he makes a different call. He does not kill the Black Widow. He brings her back alive. Bobbi is held captive. The mysterious employer leading raid is Jacques DuQuesne, who walks towards Mockingbird. DuQuesne begins by addressing Bobbi as an asset of S.H.I.E.L.D., framing her identity not as an individual, but as a repository of intelligence. Bobbi responds by refusing outright, making it clear that she will not provide any information that compromises S.H.I.E.L.D. Cross approaches the interrogation from a different angle. He outlines, in a clinical manner, how interrogations like this progress, suggesting that time and method will eventually produce results. Bobbi answers by reinforcing that there is nothing they can do to make her cooperate. Barney enters the exchange with information that shifts the dynamic. He explains that he encountered Clint on the train, confirming that S.H.I.E.L.D. was already involved in the operation. He adds that Natasha Romanoff was taken into custody, aligning her now with S.H.I.E.L.D. rather than Raid. He concludes that it's highly likely that S.H.I.E.L.D. are already tracking them and will attempt to intervene. Bobbi reacts to this information by recognizing its significance, though she does not express it in a way that gives them leverage. Internally, it confirms that Clint is alive, active, and coming, but she does not allow that knowledge to weaken her position. DuQuesne responds to Barney's report with visible frustration. He explains that Natasha was a calculated risk, someone he believed he could control through shared understanding and mutual benefit. He now recognizes that this belief was misplaced and that her defection represents not just a tactical setback, but a failure of judgment. His frustration is not just with Natasha, but with himself for trusting her. He returns his focus to Bobbi with increased intensity, now treating her not just as a source of information, but as a means of regaining control. He reiterates his demands, emphasizing that time is no longer a luxury and that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s potential approach makes her knowledge even more valuable. Bobbi responds one last time, reinforcing that there is nothing left for him to take from her. She states that whatever happens next will not change that truth. Swordsman, his frustration having reached its limit, punches Bobbi in the face repeatedly. He strikes her once, then again, and again, each blow landing squarely as he continues the assault without pause. Meanwhile, the Black Widow is being interrogated by Nick Fury and Hawkeye at the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. The interrogation is professional, thorough, and largely unnecessary because Natasha has already decided to cooperate on her own terms. She provides information about Raid's structure, its personnel, and its operational methods. She confirms the identities of Crossfire and Trickshot and provides details about their capabilities and psychological profiles. And she reveals, with the calculated precision of someone who understands the value of what she is offering, the nature of Jacques DuQuesne's plan. The Vibranium was not stolen for profit. Raid intends to use it to construct a weapon of catastrophic destructive power, a Vibranium-enhanced bomb capable of leveling a city. The target is Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, where a major United Nations summit is scheduled. Heads of state, diplomats, journalists, and thousands of support personnel will be concentrated in a single location. The attack would kill thousands, destabilize international governance, and elevate Raid from a fringe terrorist organization to a force capable of reshaping the geopolitical landscape. DuQuesne's ambition, always large, has metastasized into something apocalyptic. The intelligence galvanizes S.H.I.E.L.D. into action. Fury assembles a response plan with the urgency of a man who understands that the clock is ticking and that failure is measured in human lives. But the plan has a problem. Raid's operational security is sophisticated, and penetrating DuQuesne's defenses in Kuala Lumpur will require someone who knows how he thinks, how he deploys his people, and where his blind spots are. That someone is Natasha. Fury makes the decision that defines the rest of the film. Natasha Romanoff will work alongside Clint Barton to stop DuQuesne. The forced partnership begins badly. Clint does not trust Natasha. He believes there is good in her, but belief and trust are different things, and he is too experienced an operative to confuse them. They argue about morality. Clint believes that the way you fight defines what you are fighting for, that methods matter as much as outcomes. Natasha believes that outcomes are all that matter, that the luxury of clean hands is reserved for people who have never had blood on them. They argue about each other. Natasha tells Clint that his empathy will get him killed. Clint tells Natasha that her cynicism is not sophistication but cowardice, that it is easier to believe in nothing than to risk believing in something and being wrong. One thing propels the narrative toward Kuala Lumpur is Bobbi Morse. Clint has not forgotten that the woman he loves is in DuQuesne's hands, being held and likely tortured for the S.H.I.E.L.D's secrets she carries. Every hour that passes is an hour of Bobbi's suffering, and the knowledge gnaws at Clint with a ferocity that he channels into mission focus. Natasha observes his anguish and, for the first time, asks him about Bobbi, not as an intelligence-gathering exercise, but as a human question. Clint tells her. Natasha listens. She does not offer comfort, because comfort is not in her vocabulary, but she offers something that may be more valuable: recognition. She tells Clint that having someone worth fighting for is not a weakness. It is the only thing that separates soldiers from machines. Clint Barton's sky cycle cuts through the humid equatorial air above Kuala Lumpur at dawn. At the center of the skyline stands a Merdeka 118. Natasha sits behind Clint on the sky cycle, scanning the building through a compact tactical scope. She has provided S.H.I.E.L.D. with a detailed layout of DuQuesne's likely defensive deployments based on her knowledge of Raid's standard operating procedures. The upper 30 floors have been cleared of civilians under a fabricated construction emergency. DuQuesne's operatives control every access point above the 88th floor. The Vibranium bomb is being assembled on the rooftop, where the open air and the building's height provide both a staging platform and a launch point for the helicopter extraction that will carry the device to its detonation coordinates above the UN summit venue. They land the sky cycle on the roof of a neighboring building and finalize their approach. There is no backup. Fury has operatives positioned in the city, but the political sensitivity of a military operation on Malaysian soil limits what S.H.I.E.L.D. can do overtly. Clint and Natasha are, for all practical purposes, alone. They look at each other. These two people were trying to kill each other. Now they are about to walk into a building full of terrorists with nothing but each other to rely on. The absurdity of the situation is not lost on either of them, but neither comments on it. Clint checks his quiver. Natasha adjusts her gauntlets. They move. After taking town raid operatives on the first floors, they climb higher. The resistance intensifies. Clint and Natasha are forced to slow down, to plan each floor's assault with greater care, to accept that speed must sometimes be sacrificed for survival. The toll accumulates. Clint takes a round to the shoulder. Natasha collects a knife wound across her ribs during a close-quarters engagement that she wins through sheer aggression, but that costs her blood she cannot afford to lose. They bandage each other in a stairwell between floors, working quickly and without sentiment, and continue upward. Between engagements, in the brief silences that separate one fight from the next, Clint thinks about Bobbi. She is somewhere in this building, held and hurt, and every floor he clears brings him closer to her and further from the certainty that he will find her alive. Natasha watches him process this and says nothing. They find Bobbi on the 92nd floor. Her bruises in various stages of discoloration, cuts that have been treated just enough to prevent infection, but not enough to prevent pain. Her wrists are raw where she is pulled against the restraints. Her lips are cracked. Her staves, her weapons, and her identity as a fighter have been taken from her and placed on a table across the room. But Bobbi Morse is not broken. When Clint enters the room and she sees him through swollen eyes, something in her posture shifts. Not relief, not yet, because relief requires a sense of safety that this building cannot provide. She has been waiting, not passively, not with hope, but with the grim, stubborn endurance of a woman who decided, somewhere in the long hours of her captivity, that she would outlast whatever they did to her. She gave him nothing. No shield secrets, no operational intelligence, no names, no codes. Clint crosses the room and cuts her bonds. The moment between them is brief and enormous. He sees what they have done to the woman he loves. He holds her face in his hands and looks at her, and she looks back, and in that exchange is everything they are to each other. Natasha stands in the doorway and watches. She has killed people. She has tortured people. She has been on the other side of rooms like this one. She knows exactly what was done to Bobbi because she knows the techniques, knows the psychology, knows the precise calibration of pain designed to break without killing. And she sees, in the way Clint holds Bobbi's face, something she has never experienced and has long believed to be fiction. It changes something in Natasha. She does not have the vocabulary for what she feels because the Red Room did not teach her words for this. But the feeling is there, and it is the closest thing to hope she has known since childhood. They retrieve Bobbi's staves and help her to her feet. She is injured but mobile, and her eyes are already sharpening, the fighter in her reasserting itself over the captive. Clint wants to get her out of the building. Bobbi refuses. DuQuesne is upstairs. The bomb is upstairs. And Bobbi did not endure hours of torture to be evacuated before the fight is over. Clint does not argue. He knows her well enough to know that arguing with her about her own limits is a battle even he cannot win. The three of them move toward the stairwell. The roof is 26 floors above them. The bomb is ticking. DuQuesne is waiting. DuQuesne's group has moved the completed Vibranium bomb to the roof of the Merdeka 118. The plan is straightforward. Load the bomb onto a helicopter, fly it over the UN summit venue, and detonate it at an altitude calculated to maximize the blast radius. Thousands will die. The geopolitical order will fracture. And Jacques DuQuesne, the carnival swordsman who graduated from petty theft to global terrorism, will have reshaped the world through the only method he has ever trusted: violence. He stands on the rooftop and surveys his work with the satisfaction of a man who has planned for years and is moments from execution. Beside him is Barney Barton. He does not share DuQuesne's satisfaction. He has never shared it. Barney follows him because following is the only life he knows, and because stopping would require Barney to confront everything he has done, and the weight of that confrontation is more than he can bear while still standing. The helicopter approaches from the east, rotors beating the tropical air into a warm gale that whips across the rooftop. It banks toward the landing pad that Raid has constructed on the building's crown, its approach precise and professional. And then, from the roof of a neighboring skyscraper, a single shot rings out. The pilot slumps. The helicopter's nose dips. The aircraft shudders and spirals into the side of the Merdeka 118 several floors below the rooftop, detonating in a bloom of fire and debris that shakes the entire building. Clint and Natasha emerge onto the rooftop of the Merdeka 118 and immediately take fire. Crossfire appears and opens fire with his rifle at close range, forcing Clint and Natasha to dive behind ventilation units and air conditioning housings as bullets chew through metal and concrete around them. Hawkeye rises first, firing a rapid succession of arrows while sprinting across the open rooftop. Crossfire's bionic eye calculates the trajectories instantly, allowing him to sidestep the first 2 arrows and deflect a third with the barrel of his rifle. He counters by unleashing a burst of automatic fire that stitches the ground at Clint's feet, forcing the archer to roll behind a large satellite dish. At the same moment, Natasha closes the distance with terrifying speed, launching herself at Crossfire from his blind side. She delivers a devastating spinning kick to his ribs, but the augmented operative absorbs the blow and slams the butt of his rifle into her midsection, driving her backward. Clint seizes the opening and charges, using his bow as a melee weapon. He swings it in a wide arc, catching Crossfire across the jaw. Crossfire retaliates instantly, grabbing the bow with one hand and delivering a brutal headbutt that snaps Clint's head back. Blood sprays from Clint's nose as he staggers. Crossfire presses the advantage, firing 2 shots at point-blank range. Natasha throws herself into Clint, tackling him out of the line of fire just as the bullets whip past where his head had been. The 3 fighters circle each other across the rooftop. Crossfire's movements are mechanical and relentless, his bionic eye feeding him constant targeting data. He fires again and again, each shot calculated to herd them toward the edge of the building. Natasha adapts, using the environment as a weapon. She fires her guns on a loose piece of debris into Crossfire's face, momentarily disrupting his aim, then follows with a brutal series of strikes to his throat and knee. Crossfire grabs her by the throat, lifts her off the ground, and throws her hard into a metal railing that bends under the impact. Clint roars forward, firing an explosive arrow directly at Crossfire's feet. The detonation lifts the lieutenant off the ground and slams him into a large metal vent. Before Crossfire can recover, Clint is on him, pummeling him with fists and elbows while Natasha rejoins the fray from the other side. They fight in perfect sync, Clint delivering powerful, heavy strikes while Natasha flows around him with lethal precision, targeting joints and pressure points. In that instant, Hawkeye draws a specialized arrow, rises from cover, draws the bowstring to full tension, and fires. The arrow streaks across the rooftop and drives straight through Crossfire's bionic eye. The augmented operative jerks violently as the arrow punches through the cybernetic implant and out the back of the skull. Crossfire staggers for a single step, his body still trying to process the fatal wound, before collapsing heavily onto the concrete rooftop. The Swordsman stands waiting as Clint Barton steps out onto the open concrete. Their eyes meet for the first time in many years. The years collapse between them in an instant. The hatred that surges through Clint is deeper and more personal than anything he has ever felt toward an enemy. DuQuesne regards Clint with a cold mixture of contempt and professional pride. He acknowledges that the boy he once trained has become formidable, but there is no remorse in his expression, no trace of apology for the carnival, the thefts, the manipulation, or what he turned Barney into. He simply states that sentiment was a luxury he abandoned long ago, and that the warmth he once showed them was real only in the moment. DuQuesne tells Clint that he has never been a man who surrenders. If he cannot reshape the world, then he will burn this corner of it to the ground. He draws his sword with a practiced flourish and invites Clint to settle their account once and for all. The fight erupts immediately. Clint charges, using his bow as a melee weapon, swinging it in wide, powerful arcs. DuQuesne meets him with elegant, lethal sword work, parrying each strike and countering with razor-sharp cuts that force Clint to dodge and weave. Clint draws combat knives from his belt and closes the distance, slashing and stabbing in a savage, emotional frenzy. The 2 men trade blows across the rooftop, steel ringing against steel, fists and elbows crashing when they close too tightly. Every strike from Clint carries years of betrayal and pain. DuQuesne fights with cold precision, telling Clint between exchanges that he should be grateful for everything he was taught, that without him, Clint would still be nothing more than a beaten foster child. Then Mockingbird and Black Widow arrive. Bobbi Morse, still battered from her captivity, but burning with fury, throws herself into the fight. She drives DuQuesne back across the rooftop with a relentless series of staff strikes and kicks, each one carrying the catharsis of her own suffering under his organization. Natasha joins seamlessly, her movements fluid and lethal as she attacks from the opposite angle. Together, the two women overwhelm the Swordsman, forcing him steadily toward the edge of the skyscraper. Clint steps back, breathing hard. He watches Bobbi and Natasha take over the fight, then turns away. There is someone else on this rooftop he must face alone. Barney stands near the Vibranium bomb, its digital countdown glowing ominously. Across the open expanse, his brother Clint stops, and the two men simply look at each other. For a long moment, neither moves. The fight, when it finally begins, does not start with violence, but with a single deliberate step. Clint walks forward. Barney raises his bow and fires. The first arrow whistles past Clint's head, deliberately wide. A warning, not an attempt to kill. Clint does not flinch or slow down. He draws his own bow and the brothers collide. It is raw, brutal, and deeply personal. Barney sweeps Clint's legs out from under him and pins him to the ground. In that moment of total dominance, he could drive an arrowhead straight through his brother's throat. He does not. Clint fights back with equal force, reversing their positions and pressing his own weapon against Barney's chest. Yet he too refuses to deliver the killing blow. They trade heavy strikes, grapples, and roll across the concrete, escalating the violence with every exchange, but neither brother crosses the final line. Through every pulled punch and every intentionally wide shot, Barney is asking the question that has haunted him for years, whether Clint can ever forgive him for the path he chose. Clint answers with every refusal to kill, that forgiveness is not what matters right now. What matters is that Barney is still here, still alive, and still his brother. There is still time for him to choose a different life. Natasha enters the fray, fighting alongside Clint. When Barney gains the upper hand and forces Clint back, she engages him directly, matching his archery with her lethal close-quarters expertise. She disarms one of his shots and drives him backward with a brutal combination of strikes. Her presence changes everything. She becomes living proof of the argument Clint has been making with his actions, that a weapon forged by cruelty can still choose to become something more. The Red Room made her a killer, yet here she stands, fighting beside the man who saw redemption in her. DuQuesne shaped Barney into a criminal, but the same choice remains available to him. As the fight rages, the bomb's countdown suddenly accelerates. DuQuesne, still battling Mockingbird elsewhere on the rooftop, has triggered a failsafe. The device will now detonate in minutes. Clint and Natasha break away from Barney and rush to the bomb, desperately trying to find any way to disarm it or push it off the building, but the mechanism is too sophisticated. It was built to be unstoppable once armed. Barney stands motionless for a moment. He looks at the bomb, then at his brother, and finally at Natasha. In that instant, he makes his decision. Without a word, Barney moves toward the bomb with the calm purpose of a man who has finally accepted what must come next. He tears at wires, redirects circuits, and physically shields critical components with his own body, willing to absorb with flesh and bone what cannot be stopped any other way. The bomb does not fully detonate. Barney's desperate intervention corrupts the sequence, turning what should have been a city-leveling catastrophe into a violent but contained blast. The explosion rips apart the rooftop machinery and sends a shockwave across the roof. The force throws Hawkeye and Black Widow backward. When Clint regains his feet, he sprints to where his brother lies, broken on the concrete. Barney is dying. Clint drops to his knees and gathers him in his arms, holding him the same way Barney once held him when they were children hiding from the world. Barney does not apologize. Instead, what passes between the brothers in these final moments is something older than language and deeper than forgiveness. It is pure recognition. Barney truly sees Clint, and Clint truly sees Barney, with nothing left between them for the first time since they were boys catching frogs in a storm drain. Clint screams, a raw, shattering sound torn from the deepest part of him. It is the cry of a man losing the last remaining piece of his childhood. Natasha, standing a few feet away, hears the scream and closes her eyes. She has heard countless sounds of pain in her life. She has caused most of them, but this one she will remember forever because it is the sound of love, something she is only now beginning to understand. Elsewhere on the rooftop, Mockingbird defeats Jacques DuQuesne. She does it thoroughly and without mercy, driving him to the ground and holding him there. And the look on her face as she stands over the man whose organization tortured her is not triumph. It is exhaustion. SHIELD extraction teams arrive in the wake of the explosion, ascending the building from below and descending from helicopters that now crowd the Kuala Lumpur sky. DuQuesne is taken into custody, silent and contemptuous, offering nothing. Bobbi is placed on a stretcher and loaded into a medical helicopter. The injuries she sustained during her captivity, compounded by the rooftop fight, have pushed her body beyond its limits. She is placed on extended medical leave, and the prognosis, while not fatal, is severe. The woman Clint loves is alive but damaged, and the look they exchange as she is carried away, Bobbi reaching for his hand, Clint catching it and holding it until the stretcher pulls her beyond his reach, is the look of two people who know that the life they chose will keep extracting this price, and who have decided, together and separately, that the price is worth paying. In the quiet that follows the battle, Nick Fury meets with Clint and Natasha. The three of them stand on the streets of Kuala Lumpur. He first apologizes for the loss of Barney to Clint, and warns him and Natasha that the fight they have just survived is not the real fight. The real fight is slower, quieter, and more dangerous because it takes place inside the institutions that are supposed to be on their side. The enemies outside are visible and comprehensible. The enemies inside are neither, and they are patient, and they are already in the room. Then Fury turns to Natasha. He offers her a place at S.H.I.E.L.D. He tells her that she has skills that S.H.I.E.L.D. needs and a past that S.H.I.E.L.D. can help her move beyond. He frames it as a chance to wipe out the Red in her ledger, to take the abilities the Red Room forged in cruelty and redirect them towards something that matters. The phrase is carefully chosen. Fury does not say that S.H.I.E.L.D. will redeem her. It will give her the opportunity to redeem herself. Natasha is touched by the offer in a way that she does not fully understand and cannot entirely conceal. She tells Fury she needs time. The refusal is gentle, almost apologetic, and it surprises her as much as it surprises Fury. She cannot accept the offer until she understands whether she deserves it. She needs to discover, on her own terms, whether the person Clint saw in her, the person who hesitated on the train, the person who risked her life on the rooftop to give Clint a clear shot at Crossfire, is real or just a momentary aberration. Fury nods. He is a patient man when patience serves his purpose, and Natasha Romanoff is worth waiting for. He tells her the offer stands. Whenever she is ready, there will be a place for her. The final scene of the film finds Clint Barton standing in the middle of a crowd. He is at a carnival, not the Carson Traveling Carnival, which dissolved decades ago into memory and criminal records, but a carnival nonetheless. A county fair somewhere in America, with a Ferris wheel and game booze, and the smell of fried food and the sound of children laughing. Clint stands in the center of the midway, with bandages visible beneath his clothes and bruises darkening on his face, and the 1,000-yard stare of a man who is physically present and mentally elsewhere. Around him, life moves at the speed of joy. Families pass with cotton candy. A barker shouts invitations to try his game. A child tugs at a balloon. The carousel turns, and its music plays the same mechanical melody it has played for decades, tinny and relentless and oblivious. Clint hears none of it. He is dissociating, lost in a space between the present and the past where the boundaries of time have dissolved, and every carnival is the same carnival. The memories are not sequential. They overlap and bleed into each other, fragments of a life that was defined by loss and shaped by the stubborn, irrational refusal to stop caring about the people who leave. He stands perfectly still. The crowd moves around him the way water moves around a stone, parting and closing without acknowledgement, absorbed in its own momentum. No one looks at him. No one notices the man with the bandages and the hollow eyes standing motionless in the middle of the midway. He is invisible in the way that grief makes people invisible. And Clint Barton walks out of the frame and into whatever comes next, carrying with him the weight of everything he has lost and the impossible, stubborn, unbreakable conviction that it was worth carrying. In a heavily secured laboratory facility hidden beneath the hills of San Francisco, Wolfgang von Strucker enters through a series of reinforced airlocks. Andrew Forson, the scientist supreme of advanced idea mechanics, awaits him. The two men exchange brief greetings before Forson leads Strucker deeper into the heart of the facility. Forson guides Strucker to the center of the main laboratory chamber, where a glowing containment field holds Loki's scepter suspended in perfect stasis. Forson explains that he and Strucker have made significant progress over the past several months studying and harnessing the scepter. He states that by carefully tapping into the power contained within the gem, the Mind Stone, they have achieved a breakthrough far beyond their initial projections. Forson then directs Strucker's attention to the perimeter of the vast laboratory, where rows of imposing figures stand in silent formation. These are the Dreadnoughts, fully autonomous combat drones designed and built through the combined efforts of Hydra and AIM. Forson describes how they have successfully integrated the Mind Stone's energy into the core systems of each unit, granting the Dreadnoughts not only immense power, but also limited cognitive processing capabilities that allow them to operate with terrifying independence and tactical adaptability. He emphasizes that these machines represent a generational leap in military technology, far surpassing anything currently possessed by SHIELD, national governments, or any other organization on Earth. Strucker studies the Dreadnoughts with visible satisfaction. He tells Forson that these weapons will allow them to finally move beyond the limitations of human agents and unreliable allies. He notes that with an army of Mind Stone-powered Dreadnoughts, Hydra will no longer need to hide in the shadows or compromise with politicians like those on the World Security Council. Forson agrees, adding that the drone's ability to interface directly with the Mind Stone gives them a strategic advantage that borders on prescient battlefield awareness, making them nearly impossible to counter with conventional forces. Strucker states that the failure of DuQuesne's operation in Kuala Lumpur, while unfortunate, has provided them with valuable data and bought them the time they needed to perfect this technology. Strucker finally says that the board is nearly set. When the time comes, they will not merely infiltrate governments or manipulate events from behind the scenes. They will reshape the world by force, with weapons that neither hesitate nor question orders.